Hello everybody, welcome in, happy Wednesday, you made it to Trackilicious, where today we have the summer season heading to the midpoint of their session in the Multiclass Championship in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Today we have the mystery round, which was selected to be Oulton Park from the marble race last week. Hello everybody in the chat, cheers for the hydrate. I am a little behind, I need to go grab my beverages, so once we head into the qualifying session I will do that and get those hydrates going. But yes, thank you all for joining us tonight. Oulton Park is the venue tonight, 2.7 miles of track in the British countryside, 17 turns, a lot of them to the right. Need to get a good flow around this place as well. Nice and tight, should be some fun action, especially for the multi-class with the GT3s and the GT4s overlapping each other. But now let's head to the track where the GT4s have the first 10 minutes of the session to themselves as they try to get their grid set and established. Justin Beachley behind Tai Chin in the AMGs, and there's Chrono getting involved in the mix as well, as the AMG is quite the popular choice this season. This is your championship leader in the GT4s, but just by 1 point over fellow AMG driver Tai Chin. 48 points to Justin Beachley, 47 for Tai Chin there. Then you got Professor Chronotis and Niall Jacobs in third and fourth, also separated by just 1 point. And same with Giancarlo Bottini and Brian DeSantiago. Those four from third to sixth, separated by just 3 points in the championship. Nice and tight up until this point in the GT4s. Already beginning their first push laps of the session, 2.5 minutes in. We'll see what sort of times the GT4s can produce. They take just a touch of time to get their Pirelli tires warmed up. No tire blankets, and that is a slightly sketchy moment for Justin Beachley as he enters the Britain's chicane complex at turn 7, 8, and 9, but keeping his AMG pointed in the correct direction. Another chicane approaching at turn 10 and 11. In the background, you see Chronotis kicking the tires up and out of the way. As it is quite a busy track out there at the moment. Lots of GT4s on the grid tonight. This is Justin Beachley's Big Bird from Sesame Street. One of the many custom liveries used tonight. Niall Jacobs sets provisional pole with a 143.3. Justin Beachley improves that benchmark to a 142.087. Tom Winch slots into second place in his Janetta. Chronotis to third. Niall Jacobs moves on down to fourth, and Giancarlo Bottini gets a valid lap on the board. Now he's down to sixth as Brian DeSantiago in the 778 BMW gets across the line and gets a valid lap on the board. What can Dr. Porkchop do in the Alpine? The Chop Shop Racing comes up to the line, gets a valid lap on the board, about a second behind Rally Yatanashi's time in the 621 AMG. Welcome back, Lan Cloud in the 434 KTM. Haven't seen Lan in a minute, but happy to have you back. Let's see what sort of time the lone KTM on the grid can do, coming up to the final few corners. Turn 16 here through the crest, and then 17, the slight kink to the right, the final, or to the left, excuse me, the final corner, and up to the line, the 434, no valid lap just yet for Lan Cloud. No valid lap on the first go-around for Tai Chin, looking to get one on the second push lap in the 207 Tanned B Performance Red Dragon. And through that same complex, we see Niall Jacobs just up the road going through as well. I think Giancarlo Bottini leads the pack as he moves up to 5th. Niall Jacobs can't improve as Tai Chin goes to provisional pole. It's a 141.830, about 2.5 tenths ahead of Justin Beachley in the number 18. What about Brian DeSantiago as he now pushes to the line, getting shuffled down to 7th place? Does he have an improvement in the bag to get back into the top 5? Not quite. Gets up to 6th, less than a 10th between himself and a spot in the top 5, being held by the 47 of Niall Jacobs. Now the Alpine once again to the line. Can he get the improvement he needs? He does. Gets a good chunk of time to get ahead of Rally Yatanashi. Up to 9th goes the Alpine. Next target is John Kilcoyne, a further 9 tenths up on the standings. And speaking of, here is the Firebrand Aston Martin going through the final sector and the final series of corners. Lots of hills here at Oulton Park, going up and down, side to side. Particularly there at the straightaway between turn 15 and 16. Lots of undulations going down, and there you can see out of the final corner as well, dipping down through a crest, rising up to the line, and John Kilcoyne improves his time but can't improve his position. Increases the gap to Dr. Porkchop to 1.3 seconds. Needs a further 4 tenths to get up to Firebrand teammate Giancarlo Bottini. What does Tom Winch have in store? British driver, British car, British track. It is lining up to be home field advantage for the Janetta as he goes all the way to the top, and by a hefty margin, more than half a second between himself and the 4 AMGs behind him. Professor Carnage up to 4th as Brian DeSantiago will split the AMGs. He puts himself into the top 5. 13 milliseconds between himself and Professor Carnage in 4th. As that is a great time set by Tom Winch. Into the final 2 minutes of qualifying we go. For the GT4s at least. Does John Kilcoyne have 3 tenths in the bag to get to Rally Yatanashi and move up to the 4th row in the GT4 class? Hello Repus, hello Knife. Welcome in. Hope you guys are doing well. 2 McLarens patiently waiting their turn in the pits for the GT3 qualifying session as John Kilcoyne does find the time and does get ahead of Rally Yatanashi, but not quite enough to get to teammate Giancarlo Bottini. Less than half a tenth between them. Hello Raptor, welcome in as well. I believe Sam Reich also patiently waiting in the pits for the GT3 qualifying session to get started. After getting passed in the standings, Rally Yatanashi just needs about a 1/10 of a second to get back ahead of John Kilcoyne. But I think just dipping a wheel into the grass there, the 621, losing a good bit of momentum, but still will cross the line before the checkered flag waves for the GT4s. So Rally will be able to go around once more in the Mad Fox Racing 621 as we are in the final 40 seconds of the GT4 qualifying session. So now Land Cloud through turn 15. Needs 2/100ths of a second to get ahead of Dr. Porkchop in the Alpine, and then it's a further 1.4 seconds to get to Rally Yatanashi in 9th, who's returned back to the pits, was trying to get the time to get back ahead of John Kilcoyne, but returning back to the pit lane, and Land Cloud does find a good chunk of time to get 7 tenths ahead of Dr. Porkchop. Professor Carnotis in the number 42 AMG. Coming up to the final braking zone. And going through now. And up to the line, not up to the line, down into the pits goes the number 42. And that is all of the GT4s back in the pits. So now it is the GT3's time to shine. And Dom Matroni out of the pits in the number 5. BMW looks to catch up to the rest of the pack. Vlattislav Knife leads the GT3 grid out onto the track in the RSK Racing Team McLaren. Knife out of the final corner. Certainly isn't going to have the run he wants up to turn 1, but lucky for him, not that big of a run. So not exactly starting his first lap as he would like, with the Lexus behind as well, providing a good distraction in the mirror. That's your GT3 Championship leader, Devin Anthony, in the 664 Lexus, with a 6-point gap over Dom Matroni. Oh, and Knife goes heavily into the wall. I wonder if there was some sort of hardware issue for the McLaren there, as there was just no brakes applied. Samuel Reich, the driver behind, out on track in the Raptor number 13. Verstappen.com inspired livery. Bit of a wiggle exiting turn 11. And running wide at turn 12, just dipping that left side into the grass. But still going in the right direction is the number 13. As Sam Reich and Devin Anthony come up to the line to set the benchmarks. Devin Anthony with a 136.38. Samuel Reich just 2.5 tenths behind in the number 13. Bentley on home soil, just starting, or just about to finish Sector 2, that is. As Isaiah Horde in the number 56 Audi looks to get his first valid lap in here. And all the way to the top goes the Audi, a 133.657, the new benchmark in the GT3's Dom Matroni in second place, Devin Anthony third, Sam Reich fourth, Brandon Wallace in now 6th place with Prakash Natasan putting his 82 Bentley up into 5th place. Ezzy being given some energy. He's in the session, but no laps completed in the qualifying in the GT4, so he will start from the back of that pack, but the race is another beast in and of itself, as he coming off some good races in the rookies on Monday, as I hear. Devin Anthony gets an improvement and gets up to second place. Still 1.4 seconds between himself and provisional pole sitter Isaiah Horde. What can Brandon Wallace do? Gets about a 10th of an improvement on his personal best. As we still have a majority of the GT3 grid without a valid lap. Matroni next to the line needs 2/10 to get up to the front row, and invalidating his lap there, unable to get an improvement. Oh, almost at a top 5. Nice, Hezzy, that's awesome. What made you not have a top 5? As Matroni goes through the hairpin at turn 5, looking to get an improvement on this lap. Vlattislav Knife gets on the board in his GT3. He's intermingled in the GT4s at the time being. Still waiting for a lap from the Lone Star GP of Ryland Arnold in the 77. Bit of an oversteer out of the turn 16 and up the crest through 17, up to the line, and the Porsche goes on to the second row of the grid behind Matroni. At Ogulvie, one of those drivers without a valid lap still in the 75 GT3 M4. There's one sector left for the 75. Horde remains on top by 1.3 seconds over Devin Anthony. Matroni in third. Arnold fourth. Sam Reich rounds out your top 5. Where will Ogilvie slot in with the 9 GT3s that have already qualified? Prakash Natasan gets a good improvement as he moves up to 4th place. Matt Ogilvie gets on the board behind Vlattislav Knife by about 1.1 seconds. We saw a dominant drive from Howl Accasha last week in the 127 Lexus. Will it be a blistering qualifying lap? Not quite. 1.5 tenths behind Isaiah Horde in the 56 Audi. But still about 2 minutes on the clock. 2 laps left for Accasha in the Lexus to try and get up to provisional pole, as we saw the dominance last week from the Lexus at Zolder. Still some time to go here for the GT3s. Konstantin Repis looking for a lap still in the number 28. And that's good news from Tony. US up 2-0 in their World Cup game. And there's your sports update. No Tyler Morgan today to provide that tonight for us. Celebrating Canada Day, and his good friend is in town from across the pond. As a 28, just a final few corners left now here at Oulton Park. We'll have time for one more lap. Devin Anthony returns to the pits from 3rd. Brandon Wallace returns from 9th. Ogilvie from 10th. Vlattislav Knife from 8th. Where can Repis slot into all this? Still no valid lap on the board from the 28. So it's going to be a do-or-die lap at the end here for the RSK McLaren, as Isaiah Horde improves the benchmark at the top. Howl Accasha still remains within a 10.5. 56, there is the Audi coming out of turn 2, or turn 3, excuse me, with the Lexus behind them. This will be the final lap for Dom Matroni in the number 5, currently in 5th. Needs about a 10th and a half to get up to the second row. Prakash Natasan, the next driver, ahead of him. And then it's about 3/10 to Devin Anthony to get all the way up to 3rd, and he does just that. Finds the time right at the end to be the driver on the front of the second row. Samuel Reich pits. Doesn't want to cross the line there in the number 13. Ryland Arnold, the next driver across the line, but he didn't find an improvement, so the Porsche starting from 7th. Unless Repis can change that, he cannot. 10th will be the best that the number 28 will do, and Howl Accasha goes to provisional pole. In fact, it is complete pole right at the end of the session, nearly 4/10 clear of Isaiah Horde. And as we head into the race session, grid gets lined up, the sun beginning to set, and I will be back in just 1 second. Sorry, folks, had to grab the beverages. So let's begin with the GT4 grid walk, where on provisional pole, I keep calling it provisional pole, it's actual pole position now. It's Tom Winch in the Apex Predators Racing Team 327. Janetta, British driver, British car, on home soil. Can he convert the pole to victory? He's got a feisty grid of AMGs behind him. First, it's Tai Chin in the 207 Tan B Performance. Red Dragon getting a front row start here in round number 4. Championship leader starting from 3rd. He leads by only 1 point in the Beach GT number 18 AMG. Then it's Professor Chronotis starting from 4th place in the number 42 T-Swizzalicious AMG. To split up the Mercedes, you have Brian DeSantiago in the 778 NPG Racing BMW getting a top 5 start here in the race. Behind him, Niall Jacobs, another AMG, the number 47 in the Snap-on Hellman's Inc. livery, starting from the back of the 3rd row. Then it's an all-fire brand 4th row with Giancarlo Bottini starting from 7th place in the number 57 Janetta. Following him is John Kilcoyne in the number 32 Firebrand. The 2 Firebrands starting from the same row. Behind them is Rally Yatanashi in the Mad Fox Racing 621 AMG with Landcloud back on the grid in the Grip Runners 434 KTM. The final grid, the final row of the GT4 grid is Dr. Porkchop in the 71 Chop Shop Racing Alpine with Hezzy Thomas next to him in the Dog Box Racing number 59 AMG. So that's the GT4s. What do the GT3s look like? It's Howl Accasha with a 2nd pole in a row here in the Multiclass Championship. The 127 5-star Racing Ace starting from the front of the grid. The 56 Audi next to him, it's Isaiah Horde in the Horde Racing livery with a front row start here tonight. Behind them, Dom Matroni in the Matroni CRT number 5. This is the driver in second place in the GT3 Championship. He's got a jump on the championship leader, starting ahead of him, but on the same row. Devin Anthony in fourth place in the Tech 1 Racing 664. The Bentley on home soil, driven by Prakash Natasan, the Dark Side Racing team, getting a top 5 start here in the qualifying. Next to him on the third row, it's Sam Reich in the Raptor number 13 AMG. Next is the lone Porsche on the grid. It's the 77 Lone Star GP, driven by Ryland Arnold. Next to him on the fourth row, it is the lead RSK Racing Team McLaren. It's the 173 of Vlattislav Knife. Behind him, Brandon Wallace in the Patriot Racing number 30 Mustang, starting in the side, the top 10. And rounding out the top 10 is Konstantin Repis in the RSK Racing Team Pro number 28 McLaren. Rounding out the GT3 grid is Matt Ogulvie in the Matt Ogie Racing 75 BMW as the grid gets through the second sector, getting themselves ready to go racing. 75 minutes of racing on the clock. Two mandatory pit stops to complete, as well as the grid begins to get set side by side. Accasha in the Lexus. Can he convert another pole position to race win? Really had to fight for it last week. Had contact in the opening lap, dropped back all the way to the back, but recovered to victory. Will there be an easier go of it today for the Lexus? Can Isaiah Horde challenge that top position, about 4/10 behind in the qualifying? Can he make up for it in the race? Out of the final corner and to the line we go as we wait for the lights to go green for round number 4. Already a drive-through at the beginning for being out of position for Rally Yatanashi. Matroni hangs on to the inside and hangs on to third place. The Bentley going sideways, and there is Carnage in the GT3 field. The GT4s try to work their way through, as John Kilcoyne able to do so with his Firebrand teammate moving up a position past Niall Jacobs. As there was a handful of GT3s getting involved in that battle. I think the Mustang of Brandon Wallace, Prakash Natasan, and the Bentley and Vlattislav Knife all getting intermingled there out of turn 1. As the 30 of Wallace still going slowly out on track here. Continuing on in this one, Dom Matroni not giving any breathing room to the Audi of Isaiah Horde, and same with your championship leader, Devin Anthony. He is right on the tail of the BMW for a spot on the podium. Tai Chin getting the race lead, taking it away from Tom Winch. Justin Beachley maintains his third place start, but he is right on the tail of the Janetta. Cronotis hangs on to fourth. Brian DeSantiago getting shuffled down in the 778 as a top 5 position now belongs to Giancarlo Bottini in the number 57, moving up a couple positions from where he started on the grid. Niall Jacobs back a few places, as Arnold, Ogilvie, Knife work their way through the GT4 grid a bit earlier than they would have liked in this one, as Tom Winch having to defend the inside of turn 3 with Justin Beachley hard on the attack, trying to chase down Tai Chin, his main championship contender. 1 point separating them, with the number 18 occupying the top spot. Botini trying to stay close with Carnage as him and Knife have some multi-class overlap into the Britain chicane, and Professor Carnage runs a little wide, and there's more dirt being kicked up because Ryland Arnold in the Porsche getting a little bit stranded falls back behind Niall Jacobs, who sends a late dive to the inside and avoids all of the cars in that process as Giancarlo Bottini drifts wide as well and onto the grass. The Porsche hits Carnage into the wall, goes the 42 and back onto the track, nearly takes out the Bentley doing so. And Carnage has officially unfolded here in the first 4 minutes of this one. And there is once again the Porsche going off track and into the wall. Lots of front end damage on the 77 as he will hope to get back to the pits here. You can hear him just going into the gravel there. Carnage certainly will take a dive into the pits in the 42, receiving a significant amount of front end damage on his vehicle. The two purple cars land Cloud ahead of Brian DeSantiago, who has a bit of a moment exiting turn 1, but able to carry the speed and tries to line up the move through turn 2, heavily over the curbs. Can he keep it on track? He can. Through turn 3, gets the move done ahead of Land Cloud. Oh, car 77 disqualified by race control. Not sure what happened there with him, but he is out of this one, as is the number 30, the Mustang of Brandon Wallace. Or no, excuse me, Wallace still out on track. Here he is. We're missing somebody else. We started with 23, I believe. No matter. Dom Matroni slipping back to 5th. That gives Devin Anthony the final spot of the podium. Sam Reich up a place to 4th. Konstantin Repis with a good start. He's up to 6th in the number 28 after starting from 10th. Ogulvie also with a good start, starting from the back of the GT3 grid. He is up in 7th. As Dom Matroni goes to the inside of turn 4, just about keeps it on track. Sam Reich trying to fight back through the turn 5 hairpin, but not a lot of grip on offer around the outside there. Dom Matroni up a position to 4th. Justin Beachley able to get through Tom Winch to 2nd in the GT4 class. So the 327 with some good single lap pace in the qualifying, but during the race, just no match for the AMGs in the early goings of this one. As the 778 BMW takes an early visit to the pits here. 2 mandatory stops for all of the drivers to clear. So coming into the pits early, getting the damage fix does count as getting one of those stops done, as long as you refuel for 25 seconds. That is the only requirement during the pit stop, and then it is up to the driver's discretion whether they want to add an additional 5 seconds to their pit stop time and take on some fresh set of tires. Now Jacobs working his way back through the pack, gets ahead of Giancarlo Bottini, moves up to 4th in class. Bit of a wiggle for Bottini on the exit of turn 1 there, as the AMG also goes heavily over the curbs there, as we saw the BMW of Brian DeSantiago do in his overtake of Land Cloud earlier on. So far, just DeSantiago and Carnotus taking a trip to the pits. Santiago, a slightly longer pit stop, perhaps just fixing some damage he acquired in the early goings of the race, and same with Carnotus, a rather long stop for him, nearly 70 seconds stationary, with lots of front-end damage to the front of the 42. As the 47 runs wide on the exit of the Britain's hairpin, or the Britain's chicane, excuse me, Giancarlo Bottini will take fourth place back. Prakash Natasan having to recover, getting a top 5 start, but involved in that turn 1 melee. Game is over. USA 2, Bosnia 0. The US advances to play Belgium. Sports update. Thanks to Mr. Tony Bommy. And now, on to the important matter at hand. Can Prakash Natasan catch back up to the back of the McLaren here and pass Vlattislav Knife for 8th place? Hezzy Thomas going slowly, the 59, down the start-finish straight. Or no, just before the start-finish straight, excuse me. Doesn't look like there's any damage on the 59. He will continue to go around. Jacobs and Bottini close once again here as they head through turn 4 and into the turn 5 hairpin. The Janetta will stay ahead of the AMG. Using all of the slipstream he can, but Bottini's gonna have the inside for the next chicane at turn 10 and 11. And just no way through for Niall Jacobs. Is he gonna try the over-under here? He does, but he gets right into the back of the Janetta, slowing down his momentum, but still trying to force his way through to go down the inside of turn 14. That's a brave move if he can pull it off, but Giancarlo Bottini keeps the momentum around the outside and hangs on to 4th. But this battle's certainly not done yet, as Bottini's forced well to the inside on the defensive. Doesn't want to give that over-under opportunity up as Niall Jacobs dives into the pit lane. He tries to get the undercut done here in the number 47. Natasan still no way by the 173 in front of him. This is a battle for 8th. These two about 12 seconds behind Matt Ogilvie in 7th. Starting racing lap number 7 for the GT3s. As these two continue to be bumper to bumper. Starting another lap here. The McLaren just carrying so much more speed down the hill through turn 3. But the Bentley on the exit might have a good run, forced all the way to the grass on the inside. He sticks his nose in, but Vlattislav Knife on the defensive, still hanging on to 8th place. Bentley thinking of the move down the inside of turn 10, but not a lot of room there for these two wide GT3s. Narrow track, grass pretty much immediately at every runoff, very slippery. If you go off the racing surface, as Knife does there, goes into the gravel but keeps it out of the wall. Easy position gained for the Bentley. Like we were saying, if you dip a wheel into the grass, it's like an ice rink out there. Just the car just tends to go and go and go. Giancarlo Bottini forced into the pits because Niall Jacobs pitted earlier on, and now Niall Jacobs gets ahead. That's the AMG that flashed in front just there. So Niall Jacobs gets the undercut done on Giancarlo Bottini, despite having a slightly longer pit stop as well. Yatanashi already done serving the penalty, and really not in a bad place, all things considered. Samuel Reich in 6th, looking to catch up to Matt Ogulvie in a top 5 position after starting from the back of the GT3s. How about that for the number 75 BMW? 15 minutes into this one, running 6 positions up from where he started. Samuel Reich in the same corner. We nearly saw Vlattislav Knife go into the wall, the 13 AMG with a similar moment, and that's Repis down the inside. This is for position between the two GT3s. Sam Reich will hold on to 6, but Repis right on his tail. Brandon Wallace in the pits in the number 30. Hezzy Thomas drifting a touch wide. He will stay on the racing line and allows the two GT3s to go through. Niall Jacobs picks up a drive-through. He was battling for a spot in 4th. Repis goes deep into the grass, keeps it just about pointed in the correct direction. But he will drop back a good chunk to Samuel Reich in this battle for 6 in the GT3s. Al Jacobs already with that drive-through for track limits, picking up 4 tallies already in the early goings of this one. Unfortunately, Wallace out from the pits. And yeah, I guess we got to put a big sign on the back of that Ford that just says, "Please do not hit me." Unlucky. And sorry to hear that, Brandon, but it's just how racing goes some days. I'm sure you'll be back next week for round number 5, with the luck turning around next week. I am sure of it. We will see that Mustang in a top 5 position. Tom Winch sticking within 2 seconds of Justin Beachley for 2nd place in the GT4s. There is the lead AMG Tai Chin in the front of your picture. And then it's Justin Beachley about 4.5 seconds off of the race lead, and Tom Winch a further 1.8 behind, and that is your GT4 podium. About half of the GT4s already completing their pit stops, still waiting, or at least completing one of their mandatory pit stops, that is. Still waiting for the other half. And as it stands, 0 of the 9 GT3 drivers have completed any of their pit stops tonight. Tom Winch onto the grass with Isaiah Horde working his way through the GT4s in his number 56 GT3 Audi. Yellow flag for the number 13. That's Samuel Reich trying to get back rolling. Gets himself into a decent gap with the GT4 AMG of Vlattislav going through. Then behind him is Vlattislav Knife. That is for position. This is now the battle for 8th and 9th between Reich in the number 13 and Knife in the 173 McLaren. Right behind him, but as we have seen a handful of drivers do, they just dip a wheel wide there into the grass, the exit of the chicane, and very narrow there. No room for the McLaren to get through the AMG of Vlattislav. Dom Matroni, the first GT3 to take a dive into the pit lane. And he is already getting worked on in this nice and short pit lane. A drive-through not really all that costly. Right around 15 seconds is the damage for a drive-through. As Dom Matroni gets the car topped up on fuel and back out he goes. No new tires for the BMW, so he is on the same rubber he started this race. Only gone through 20 minutes so far, so not a whole lot of wear and tear on his Pirellis. Also not involved in that much battling in the early goings of this one in the number 5. So just running more of a strategic race here, just putting in the consistent laps, getting a good pit stop here, comes into some clean air, and now can push on further in the number 5. Justin Beachley, the first of the GT4 podium sitters to take a bite into the pits. Closest battle we have on track at the moment. It's between Samuel Reich and Vlattislav Knife. The number 13 leads the 173. That is a 1 second gap visualized in real time from the back of the number 13. Still a good chunk of space for Vlattislav Knife to try and make up before he can really challenge the AMG for position. Reich nearly running wide on the exit of turn 4 and into the hairpin. He does run a little bit deep. Opens up the inside for Vlattislav Knife, who will take full advantage as Repis is carrying a Pirelli board with him. So Knife up a place, taking advantage of Reich running a touch wide, and there goes the Pirelli sign, getting shot into the spectators. Hopefully everyone's okay in the crowd. Repis runs deep, Knife nearly follows him, but the pair of Knife and Reich will both get through Repis, and move up into 6th for Knife, but he gets pushed wide by Sam Reich into the grass. Repis will get back into 6th, Knife in 7th, and I'm not sure if Reich was able to hold on to that one or whether the number 13 collided with the wall, gets back and rolling ahead of the 6-2-1. Weaving side to side, just trying to stay out of the way there. Ogulvie in the pits, Tom Winch in the pits, responding to Justin Beachley. Tai Chin also taking a visit down the pit lane. Oh, and it's very close between the top two. Justin Beachley didn't take tires. A little bit squirrely on the exit of 3. About a second and a half is now the gap between the top two AMGs in the GT4 class. Oh, dramas, the 664 going slowly on the exit of 14. Knife goes into the pits after running in 7th place. Dom Matroni and Matt Ogilvie will regain the places they lost during their pit stop. Both Tai Chin and Tom Winch did take new tires during their pit stops, as they were stationary for over 30 seconds in their pit box. But Justin Beachley under that 30-second mark, just getting refueled for this one. Tried to get the track position over Tai Chin, nearly had it, but behind him, he does have a good 5-second gap over Tom Winch. But the Janetta with fresh tires, looking to close in on the AMGs in front. Hezzy Thomas, Natasan, and Repis all in the pits now. Samuel Reich joining them, same with second place sitter in the GT3s, Isaiah Horde. Engineers on the right, hard at work, making sure these cars make it through the 75-minute race. Right on board with Hezzy as he exits the pits. Just dipping a wheel into the grass, but luckily a little bit of tarmac appeared and got the grip right back. There is Devin Anthony going through in the 664 Lexus. He now moves up to second place in the GT3 class, but still yet to complete a single pit stop in this one. Hezzy Thomas actually already completing both of his mandatory pit stops. So the 59 can run all the way to the end of this one. 48 minutes to go on this long stint for the Dogbox Racing AMG. Oh no, we've lost Tom Winch. The Janetta running in third has disappeared. So at the moment, it's Land Cloud who will move up to that final podium position, but still yet to complete a mandatory pit stop on the night. Accasha, the race leader, into the pits after 17 laps of running. Decides now is the time to go in. Behind Rally Yatanashi, also with 2 mandatory stops to complete on the night. So this might just give the final podium position to Giancarlo Bottini in the number 57 Firebrand. The lone KTM continues to ride on, currently in third, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens at the end of this one. Still 46 minutes to go, and here comes Landcloud into the pits for the first mandatory stop of the night for the KTM. Tom Winch is back in the pits, sitting at the end of the pit lane waiting for his 90-second return timer to tick down before he can get control of the vehicle and return back into this one. But good to see the perseverance from the Janetta to continue on in this one. And Cloud done and serviced. Devin Anthony is your race leader by 10 seconds, but still yet to serve a mandatory stop on the night. So with Landcloud visiting the pit lane, Giancarlo Bottini does inherit the final podium position in the GT3. Niall Jacobs about 10 seconds behind him after having to serve a drive-through early on for track limits. Can he make up that gap? In the 44 minutes that remain in this one. Niall Jacobs continues his pursuit of the 57 Janetta, that final podium place. Justin Beachley drifts back about 5.5 seconds behind Tai Chin, the race leader in the GT4 class. And Beachley and Tai Chin separated by just 1 point in the championship. Beachley in the number 18 ahead of Tai Chin in the 207, but this will certainly swing things in favor of the Tan B Performance Red Dragon AMG. And with a finish like this, Tai Chin will get 3 points more than Beachley. 23 points go to the race winner in both classes, and then 20 points for second, 18 for third, 17 for fourth, 16 for fifth, 15 for sixth, then 1 point down all the way for the positions, all the way down to 20th. It's still important to finish these races. Even finishing 10th can get you 11 points. As the BMW of Ogilvie getting a little bit squirrely over the curbs at turn 1. Devin Anthony still yet to visit the pits after 21 laps of running. He leads Accasha by about 4.5 seconds. But the 127 Lexus has already come into the pits for a mandatory pit stop. Proving to be a bit of a race of attrition here, already losing a handful of drivers tonight, both of the classes. Down to 18, 9 GT3s, 9 GT4s. After starting with 11 GT3s, 12 GT4s. Continue on running. Reppes and Beachley in for their final stops. Devin Anthony in for his first visit in the 664. Has Dom Matroni done enough in the number 5 to stay ahead of the 664 and return onto a podium place? Still a sector to go for the number 5. As Devin Anthony eagerly awaits his crew to get the work done on the car. He has been dropped. He is rolling to the end of the pits. And Dom Matroni just coming up to the start of the main straight. And Devin Anthony with a good stint in the middle will hang on to third place ahead of Dom Matroni. And he will be ahead by about 6.5 seconds. Devin Anthony did take some new tires on that stop. Samuel Reich in the pits for the final time in the number 13. Get a good look of that livery here. Very much inspired by the Verstappen.com number 3. But with some personal touches, of course, with the Raptor Racing, the Next Level Racing, and Moza sponsors. As he gets back onto the racing surface, just himself, Reppes, and Beachley completing the mandatory pit stops on the night so far. Halfway still to go in this one. Howl Accasha is your race leader in the 127, has the fastest lap of the race as well, and started from pole and about to overtake the GT4 race leader Tai Chin. Oh, and there's a sketchy moment for the 127, but keeps it pointed in the correct direction. Well done there from Accasha to keep it out of the wall. But yeah, there is the GT4 race leader Tai Chin in the GT4 AMG, right ahead of the Lexus. Isaiah Horde is in second place in the GT3s, followed by Devin Anthony in third, and that rounds out your podium in the GT3s. Dom Matroni in fourth, Matt Ogulvie in fifth, the two BMWs running inside the top five. Prakash Natasan in the Beley in sixth, Vlattislav Knife runs in seventh, Samuel Reich in ninth, Repis in 10th, but they have Tai Chin ahead of them, the GT4 race leader, who has yet to complete his final pit stop of the night. That is your GT3 grid. Tai Chin, like we said, GT4 race leader, leads Justin Beachley, who has completed both of his pit stops and has maintained position ahead of Dr. Porkchop and Giancarlo Bottini. So at the moment, Dr. Porkchop has third, Urali Yatanashi in fourth, Landcloud fifth, Brian DeSantiago in sixth. Brian DeSantiago and Niall Jacobs both completed, and Professor Chronotis, excuse me, all of those three completing their mandatory pit stops as they run at the back of the GT4 grid. We'll have to wait for the four in the middle and Tai Chin as well before we can really get a good look as to where they will stand at the end of this one. In the 47 with another drive-through for track limits. Niall Jacobs clawing into the time. That 10-second gap shrinking to 7.5. But in doing so, picking up another drive-through penalty. The 47 will have to take a fourth visit down the pit lane. .47 immediately in and out to clear that drive-through. Oh, and Devin Anthony with the yellow flag. Stranded on the exit of turn 4. Dom Matroni closing right in. And this is the battle for the final podium position in the GT3s. Dom Matroni a little too excited. Can't get the car slowed down at the hairpin of turn 5. Saw the Lexus slowly up ahead of him. Eyes lit up, but just could not keep focus and get the car stopped at the hairpin. Otherwise, it might have been an easy position gained for Dom Matroni back up to the podium positions. And now doing so has to cut through the chicane, hopefully not picking up a track limit in doing so. But now has about 7 seconds to try and make up to the back of the 664 Lexus once again. Bottini getting through Landcloud, those two on different strategies. Bottini pretty far back from Justin Beachley in second place, so he will hope to finish this one out in third. Next driver behind him for position is Niall Jacobs, about 22 seconds down the road after having to serve his second drive-through of the night. Does the 47 have the pace to make up that time? We saw him cut into the 10-second deficit earlier, Is 20 too much for the 47? Try and fight back. Sun continuing to set, almost 9 o'clock local time at Oulton Park. Headlights fully engaged. Dr. Porkchop and Lan Cloud into the pits for the final time in the GT4s, and Vlattislav Knife in the GT3s. Battle for position here. That's Tai Chin, the race leader in the GT4s, running wide at the exit of 15. A little bit of dramas there for the 207 as Rally Yatanashi and Brian DeSantiago get through. The 207 will go back to the pits, but this is a battle for position. The 778 wants to get on the back of the 621 AMG, which will turn potentially into a top 5 finish at the end of this race. Getting word that indeed the Janetta earlier just kind of had a disconnect. So unlucky to hear that. But it did not look like the disconnection collected anybody else in the process, as sometimes the cars like to ping around. 778 does get through the 621 for position. Yellow flags, Dr. Porkchop and Dom Matroni. Maybe a collision between the two classes there at turn 4, one of the highest speed corners of the track, and a lot of speed mismatch between the two classes there. One of the highest speed sections of the track. Justin Beachley facing the wrong way. Howl Accasha collides with him. Dr. Porkchop nearly goes through, but gets spun around in the process. Dr. Porkchop moves, not Dr. Porkchop, Professor Chronotis will move up a place past the Alpine, as Justin Beachley has a significant amount of damage on the front of his AMG. Beachley may have to return to the pits to get that damage fixed, but still looking pretty racy here as he went side by side with the Alpine of Dr. Porkchop. Howl Accasha having to take the final pit stop here. Not sure if that was scheduled or not, but the 127 was involved in the collision at the Britain's chicane. And more dramas for Dom Matroni as he returns back to the pits. What has happened here to the BMW? A momentary yellow flag for him exiting turn 1. Sees the BMW return back to the pits. So Beachley happy to continue on despite the front end damage he sustained. Perhaps just doesn't want to take an extra trip to the pits and lose out on a podium. And now the number 5 BMW retiring from this one. So now 6 drivers out of this race. Nick can still be anybody's podium here with just over 25 minutes to go. A few drivers still yet to complete their final pit stop of the night. The 75 BMW of Matt Ogulvie doing so now. Same with the 82 Bentley of Prakash Natasan. Unlucky for Beachley, already serving his 2 pit stops, so he can't come in and get the damage fixed while serving one of those 2 mandatory stops on the night, so he will just have to carry on in this one. Does have a good gap to Brian DeSantiago behind, who still does need to complete a pit stop, so realistically, his next gap is to Giancarlo Bottini, and he's got about 48 seconds until the Janetta. Isaiah Horde in the race lead in the Audi after Accasha having to go to the pits on the previous lap. Rather lengthy stop there as well for the 127. About 17 seconds of damage to get fixed. So a pretty hefty collision between himself and Justin Beachley. That just shows you how much damage Beachley is carrying. Repis into the pits for the final time. Same with Brian DeSantiago in the GT4s. He was battling with Rally Yatanashi before this stop. Giancarlo Bottini will get ahead of the BMW to get into 4th place for the time being in the GT4s. But once Rally Yatanashi serves their final pit stop of the night, Bottini will get back up into the podium positions. There is the speed difference between the GT3s and the GT4s. The V10 Audi easily dispatching the AMG GT4 of the race leader Tai Chin, who is no slouch in terms of race pace. So that just shows you, even with the GT4 right on the limit, the GT3 just that much quicker. So now we wait for Isaiah Horde, Devin Anthony, and Rally Yatanashi. The final 3 yet to serve their pit stop, yet to serve their final mandatory pit stop, rather, with 22 minutes left to go in round number 4 here at Oulton Park. It's the Multiclass Championship in Assetto Corsa Competizione. 8 weeks going on in this one. We are right about at the halfway mark after this race. Lots of interesting championship battles going on. The 2 AMGs at the front of the GT4s separated by just 1 point. It goes in the favor of Justin Beachley as it stands, but after this one, or after the race results of tonight are finalized, I should say, Tai Chin just might get the race lead of the championship by 2 points. Horde into the pits on lap 33. Was there enough of a gap for Accasha to remain in the race lead despite having the damage? The 56 releases the limiter. There it is, going out of the pit lane, back up to racing speed, and the 56 will take the lead away from the 127 Lexus. So now a sprint to the end between the top two and the GT3's. 2 seconds separates the Lexus in second place and Horde in the 56 Audi in the race lead. Devin Anthony done and dusted with his final stop of the night, so that just leaves Rally Yatanashi out on track with that one next to their name to signify that one mandatory pit stop still needs to be served by that car. And already the Lexus on the back of the Audi for the race lead. All right, on board with Accasha. The Audi very squirrely on the exit of 16, but able to keep the place ahead of the Lexus going down the main straight. Lexus thinking of carrying the speed around the outside, but not a lot of room to do that. And in doing so, scrubbing a lot of speed mid-corner. Try and stay close to the Audi into the heavy braking zone at the turn 5 hairpin. But Isaiah Horde comfortably in front there as they exit and head through the kink at turn 6 before going into the Britain's chicane at turn 7, 8, and then 9 on the exit, rising up the hill into the turn 11, or turn 10 and 11 chicane, with the Audi maintaining position in front of the Lexus. The Lexus much more comfortable over the curbs as Accasha tries to get back into the race lead. Horde sliding a little bit as he tries to put the power down, heading up the hill into turn 15. Through those corners where the car just needs to carry the momentum. The Lexus seems much more capable of doing so compared to the Audi, but on power, the V10 just powers away, with Accasha being unable to get by the Audi on the last lap. We'll have to look at a different place to go through there once again. At turn 3, the Lexus just trying to carry the speed around the outside, but in doing so, scrubbing all of that momentum. There's Justin Beachley, second place sitter in the GT4 class, getting out of the way of this battle for the overall race lead. Oh, and Accasha drifts wide at turn 15, keeps it out of the barrier, and the battle for the lead has expired with the 127 drifting out of 15. The 56 can breathe a sigh of relief. Devin Anthony not close enough to take advantage of the sister Lexus having a misfortune there at turn 15. 11 seconds is the gap between the top two now. Does Accasha have the pace in the bag to try and close down to the Audi out in the lead and be able to fight once again? Horde just needs to keep it within the white lines, doesn't want to risk getting any kind of track limit penalty here, as the drive-through will certainly cost him the race lead. Getting through the M4 GT4 of Brian DeSantiago. He is on racing lap number 37 of the night, in the race lead by about 11 seconds over Accasha. Once again, a bit of a squirrely moment for the Audi, exiting turn 11, but keeps it under control, just losing a little bit of time in doing so. But maintains the lead of the race. Natasan chasing down fourth place sitter Matt Ogulvie. Ogulvie starting from the back of the GT3 grid and all the way up to fourth place. With 13 minutes to go, can he hang on to that one? Natasan is looking pretty quick in the closing stages of this one, with the 82 Bentley getting a little bit out of shape at the start of this race, but recovering very nicely back into the top 5, and it might yet be more if he can get ahead of the 75 BMW. Bentley and BMW dealing with Professor Chronotis. Dealing with sounds harsh. Managing the traffic around them. And in doing so, the gap opening up to 1.5 seconds between Ogilvie and Natasan in this battle for 4th and 5th in the GT3 class. Land Cloud picking up a drive through the 4-3-4. Picking up his 4th tally of the night. So the KTM will have to come in and serve that drive-through before the end of the race. Natasan sticking within that 1.5 second mark of Matt Ogilvie for 4th, but just can't quite chase down the BMW, who's hanging on to this position, kicking up some sparks, going over the apex curbs at turn 1. 47 of Niall Jacobs right ahead of them in the GT4. Both classes getting squirrely on the exit there. The Bentley closer than he's been before the BMW. Isaiah Horde, your race leader in the GT3, is Accasha 2nd. Devin Anthony rounds out the podium. This is the battle for 4th and 5th between Ogilvie and Prakash Natasan in 5th. Then you got Vlattislav Knife 6th, Sam Reich in 7th place, and Ogilvie going into the GT4 leader, and in doing so, runs wide, and the Bentley of Natasan goes through. So it's now 4th for the 82, 5th for Ogilvie. Tai Chin remains in the race lead. He's got a comfortable gap to Justin Beachley at over 20 seconds. And Justin Beachley is carrying the damage on the front end of his AMG. Giancarlo Bottini rounds out the podiums in the GT4s. Then it's Niall Jacobs in 4th, Brian DeSantiago in 5th, Chronotis 6th, Rally Yatsunashi in 7th, Dr. Porkchop 8th, and Land Cloud in 9th place. Now the BMW a bit bruised up after the contact with the GT4 race leader. And the gap to Prakash Natasan opens up the 2.5 seconds, the BMW behind. Niall Jacobs losing the position to Brian DeSantiago, 4th place going to the BMW. 5th to the AMG of Niall Jacobs. And as the darkness continues to grow, the low visibility impacting a couple of the drivers here in the late goings of this race. Perhaps some fatigue as well after running for 69 minutes up until this point. And Accasha at the front just can't close down the gap to Isaiah Horde. hovering right around that 11-12 second mark between the top two GT3s. Brian DeSantiago, after getting that 4th place away from Niall Jacobs, looks to hold on to it in the final 5 minutes of the race. Just a handful of laps to go, depending on when our race leader will cross the start-finish line. But not long left for the drivers to try and get their positions decided before the end of round number 4. Riding on the rear wing of the BMW, that gap staying right around 1.5 seconds to Niall Jacobs. The first pair of headlights you see, that is the number 47 AMG, directly behind the 7784 position. But with how it's looking now, Niall Jacobs trying to close in, but he's got GT3 company behind. As they go side by side, the 13 going slowly, Samuel Reich on the exit of turn 1. And Professor Chronotis gets a drive-through for track limits right at the end stage of the race. So Repis gets through. The two GT4s battling on track. Chronotis did a very good job of closing in on these two. The gap shrunk to 1.6 seconds. But the 42 forced to take a trip back through the pits to serve that drive-through for track limits, just pushing a little bit too hard, crossing the white line one too many times. And they're at the braking zone of the Britain's chicane, excuse me. The 47 AMG closing right on the back of the BMW, but on power, Brian DeSantiago able to pull away. window closed, and the 47 of Niall Jacobs with another drive-through. So it's going to be 5 visits down the pits for Niall Jacobs in his attempt to get back past Brian DeSantiago. And in doing so, the 2 AMGs are now actually battling for position. Chronotis gets ahead. The 42 gets through the 47, but he goes deep at the hairpin. The 47 down the inside takes the place back. And you heard it there from the race director, the leader, Isaiah Horde, on the final lap of the race. Niall Jacobs has to cut through and potentially pick up another track limit violation. If not from the game. Oh, Chronotis with a late dive to the inside. Niall Jacobs thinking about giving him the room there, but not a lot on offer. But these GT4s, depending on if Isaiah Horde can catch back up to them, will have to do another racing lap. And I think Chronotis is going to be forced into the pit lane on this lap if he doesn't want his drive-through to turn into more. Isaiah Horde just behind the 2 AMGs battling for position in the GT4s. He will finish out the GT3 race lead out on top, takes the checkered flag, and he will take the top step of the podium in the 56 Audi. Brian DeSantiago takes the checkered flag. He will be ahead of Chronotis, who gets a 30-second penalty. Accasha in the 127 takes second place in the GT3 class. Devin Anthony in third in the 664 Lexus. Justin Beachley already taking the checkered flag, so he will get second place in the GT4 class. Tai Chin is your race leader in the GT4s as we wait for him to take the checkered flag. I think in all of this, Niall Jacobs is going to get fourth place, because he got the extra lap over Brian DeSantiago and Professor Chronotis. Tai Chin out of the final corner takes the race win and the championship lead in the 207 AMG. Giancarlo Bottini rounds out the podium places in the GT4s, as Niall Jacobs, the last driver on track to take the checkered flag in the number 47. He will get a fourth place finish here tonight. So DeSantiago finishes in fifth. Rally Yatanashi gets sixth. Chronotis takes seventh. Pork Chop in eighth. Land Cloud in ninth. Tai Chin race leader, or race winner, that is. Justin Beachley second. Giancarlo Bottini third in the GT4 class. Isaiah Horde on top in the GT3s. Howl Accasha second. Devin Anthony in third. Prakash Natasan fourth. Matt Ogulvie in fifth after starting from the back of the GT3 pack. Gets a top 5 finish. Vlattislav Knife in sixth place. I believe Sam Reich finishes in seventh, and Repis takes eighth. Podium fitters, please join us in the green room for a quick chat of how your guys' race went on as we take it back to the Trackilicious studio. We have Tai Chin, Giancarlo Bottini joining us from the GT4s, Isaiah Horde and Devin Anthony from the GT3s. Welcome in, everyone. We'll start with the GT4s. Tai Chin, it looked a little rough out there for you, but still got the race win.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle trying to get used to the car in the early stages of the race. Yeah, the car was a hassle a little bit. I had a few moments. I had a moment with a GT3. We crashed at one point. I don't know where, but we did crash. Yeah, it was a bit of a hectic one. But it's a shame what happened to Justin and Winch, because I saw them drop back a lot on the Delta. I don't know where Winch finished, but it's a shame that the cars behind are just like not having such great races. But back to Eugene Carlo. What were you saying about me lapping?
You almost caught me. You almost got me for lapping P3 towards the end. Just like 10 seconds of delta off.
Yeah, I think I lost about 4 seconds from a collision with a GT3, and maybe another few seconds on my own mistake going into the gravel. I'm lucky I didn't hit the wall. If I hit the wall, that would have been bad. But yeah, a bit untidy for me. I'll try to fix that for next race. But anyways, happy July 4th to everybody in the United States. And that's my segment done.
And that's Tai Chin done. Giancarlo, you started from the 4th row, I believe, in 7th, and worked your way up to a podium there. Talk us through how you did it.
Well, first things first, I was way off my own pace from previous times on this track, just during practice and into qualifying, but after a while of getting back into my groove, I was quite happy to find my pace and find my comfort with my braking points where the Janetta is strong, and kind of sliding it through some of the low speed corners to really squeeze every 10th I could. But it's a real shame, the drive-throughs. I wish I could have had a little more of a battle with Jacobs. We had a bit at the beginning, but it was just not in the cards, I guess.
Yeah, not today. Luck going your way for sure. Congrats, GT4 podium sitters, on a race tonight. And on to the GT3s. Isaiah, you got your race win tonight. Certainly had to work for it, but a little bit of luck went your way tonight.
Oh, man. Yeah, no kidding. Oh, my gosh. That was super fun. After Accasha had whatever incident he had with the GT4s, I was as focused gets to try and catch up to him, because he had a 10-second lead, if not more, last time I checked. That was fun.
Yeah, just head down all the way to the end after getting that race lead. The gap after qualifying looked a bit open, so kind of looked like a repeat of last week where the Lexus could have run away from this one, but just a little bit of fortune going your way there, working your way through the GT4s a little more cleanly.
Absolutely. There were a couple incidents where I thought I was going to spin somebody else out or even myself out, but everything worked out great, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, and Devin, a bit of a, I don't know what to call it there. You ended up on the podium still, but still a couple of yellow flags popping up for you, I noticed on the screen there.
Yeah, the car's not the best here. It's it can get loose, that rear end, especially on that last turn. Just wants to go out. But yeah, P3. I pit a little early. My first stop, and then just kind of was all by myself.
Yeah,
the other two ran away.
Yeah, the other two ran away, and the cars behind, either disconnected, getting some drive-throughs. So yeah, just really a race of attrition tonight, and just seeing that checkered flag at the end almost solidified you a good result tonight. So congrats to all of you for getting the podium position, sticking it out for this one here tonight at Oulton Park. We head into the second half of the season next week, so good luck to you all in trying to bring home the championship.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be on back to the green room here as we will conclude our coverage here tonight of the ACC Multiclass Championship. Friday, we go to Le Mans Ultimate for the hypercars, doing 75-minute races to close out their season. And then on Sundays, it's iRacing for the MX5 Cup. Mondays, it's the GT4 Rookies. And I'm not sure when I'll be available to stream the Rookies next. Just depends on the scheduling of the soccer season that I am doing this summer. Then on Tuesday, we go to Le Mans Ultimate. It's the GT3 Sprint Championship going into the second half of their championship as well, into round number 5 next week. I believe at Barcelona, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me. Don't do it. And then next week, it's round 5 for the ACC Multiclass next week. Same place, same time, same format next week here on Twitch. Stick around for the raid of Hot Shot Henry, doing some iRacing, getting some streams in before a big birthday. So closing out the race on iRacing, spread the love from one sim racing community to the next. Congrats to all of the drivers finishing tonight, and thank you all for tuning in. Happy to have you here at Trackilicious on your Wednesday night. Tune in next week for Le Mans Ultimate on Tuesday. And the same format as we had tonight. Same time, same place, next week. Hope you all enjoyed the race tonight. Like I said, stick around for the raid. Hotshot Henry doing some iRacing, closing out his 1-hour race. So yes, stick around. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you may be watching. Happy to have you here. And until next week, stay safe. Have a good one.